Hello. The research design is the roadmap of every research adventure that require careful consideration, careful planning, and in-depth crafting for a successful research journey. In this video, we're going to look at the common mistakes or the common pitfall that could be associated with research design and how to avoid them. This is Research and Statistics, and my name is Dr. Felix Ayodele Oyeleye. Let's get started. Research design can actually be likened to an architectural design in terms of building in the field of building and construction. So usually, if an architectural design is poorly done, you're likely going to end up with structural defects, maybe at some point in the course of construction, or perhaps even at the end of the entire project. So looking at the case of research design, if it is not properly handled, it can affect greatly the validity of our findings and also the reliability of the entire project itself. So let's look at the importance of a rigorous research design. Research design itself should be viewed as a roadmap for a valid and reliable result outputs when we conduct our research. If it is poorly designed, it affects the credibility of our research finding. And of course, it will also result into a lot of waste of resources. The National Institute of Health has estimated about 85% of research funding waste, which more often or most often is due to poor research design. So we must ensure we promote a good research design as it affects academic research. Now let's look at the pitfall one after the other. The first one is unclear research question. Vague research questions will actually derail the entire research quest. So it will lead to unfocused data collection because there's no clarity as to the research question itself. So for instance, as we have on the slide, if we have a research question such as, does social media affect things? Now this is an example of a vague research question because number one is too broad and it's not specific, it's not definite. So a better way to put this, or a more refined way to put such a research question, is to say, does daily social media use correlates with increased anxiety in adolescents aged 13 to 16? So you can appreciate that a very clear research question gives a clear roadmap to our entire project in its entirety. Now the next pitfall is the sampling bias. Sampling bias is very critical to the credibility of our research finding. Number one, it's important we define the type of sampling technique we intend to use for a research. Are we using probability sampling or we intend using non-probability sampling? And the question of representativeness is very central to the validity of our research. And this must be taken care, must be addressed in the course of designing our work. For instance, if we are to conduct a survey on a perception of Nigerians, maybe about the most recent concluded election in Nigeria, like the presidential election. Now, for a nation that has a population of over 200 million, now it's important to understand that there must be random sampling, okay? Randomization is very, very key to ensure there's no sampling bias. Number two, there must be proper stratification because the population is made up of different demographic, different age group. We have the young ones, we have adults, and we have the adolescents. So there must be proper stratification. And of course, there should be proper weighting. Based on the demographic proportion, we do what we call weighting to be sure that each demography, each stratum of our population is well represented. So we have the random sampling, we have the stratification, and we have proper weighting. So with this, we're not going to fall into that pitfall of sampling bias. Next is the lack of control group. Now, this often occurs when we have to deal with experimental study. The control group is very, very critical to ensuring that our intervention effect is measured. Without a control group, we cannot possibly isolate an intervention effect. So, for example, if we are to evaluate maybe a new teaching methods and we want to evaluate it against a particular baseline, the first step is to randomly assign participants into the control group and the experimental group. And of course, when this is properly done, the control group can reduce the placebo effect by about 20 to 40%. So proper allocation of participants into our research group is very important. Okay, and we must have a control group. This is what we tell if our intervention has actually brought about any impact. Now, the next we're going to talk about is the measurement bias. Now, usually when we conduct research, the idea is to measure a concept, maybe be it a qualitative research or a quantitative research. Now, the accuracy of the measuring tool is very, very key to ensuring the credibility of our research finding. So, inaccurate or unreliable measurement tool can undermine the entire research. So, when we are using a subjective scale without validating it, it will affect the validity of our result. For instance, if we are doing maybe a behavioral-based study, and we needed to use instrument like a questionnaire, such tool should be properly validated. It's an example of a subjective instrument. It should be properly validated, calibrated before we can apply it. And then there should be test and retest to check the reliability of that particular instrument. Ideally, the reliability of an instrument should not be less than 0.7 when we conduct our reliability checks. So number one, the instrument needs to be validated. More importantly, if we are using a subjective tool or instrument, it should be properly calibrated. And the people that will be involved in the sample collection must be adequately trained so that they can ensure proper collection of data. And we can also reduce what we call observational bias. Now, the next pitfall we talk about is the confounding variables. Confounding variables are variables that are not of primary interest in our research, but needs to be properly addressed so that they don't affect greatly the results of our research findings. Okay, an example is, for instance, if we are to study the effect of exercise, it's important to control for diet, because diet can be a confounder in such a kind of study. We want to look at the effect of exercise, maybe on a group of individuals, maybe on the body, on a cohort generally. So we must control confounders variable like the diet or the sleeping habits, because they are not the primary focus of our research. So the issue of managing confounder is very, very central to ensuring good credibility in our research finding. Now, in summary, it's important to ensure that we have a clear research question. Either we have a research question in the case of exploratory study, or we want to make use of research hypothesis in the case of experimental study. There must be clarity in our research question and also our hypothesis. And again, there must be proper sampling. Our sampling must be representative of the entire population that we have actually tried to study. And there must be control, more importantly, when we are doing experimental study. And the goal is to establish the effect of an intervention. Control must be selected based on the principle of randomization. And then we must address the subject of confounder. Some confounders are like locking variables that can interfere with the final results we may end up with in the course of our research. And of course, we must validate our tool. Very, very important. A validated tool gives credibility even to the finding of our research. Now, this is the much we're going to take on the common pitfall in research to avoid in research design. This is Research and Statistics, and my name is Dr. Felix Ayodele Oyeleye. I'll see you again. Thanks for listening.